Yep, we're on. All right, and we're on. We're streaming. We're live. So, welcome to the show, everybody. It is time for Coast to Coast with your hosts, Fritz and Brian. I'm Fritz. That's Brian.
Hello.
And I've gone ahead today, and I've done something a little unusual. I've lowered my seat. Normally, I have my seat like all the way up.
Yeah.
Because you're so tall.
Yeah.
That if I keep my seat at the same height as yours, I look like a little kid. So
it's fine. It's fine. You know, it's one of those things where. So what's interesting is most people don't when I meet them, they don't realize that I'm like 6'4", 6'5".
Right.
Right. And so,
how do they not realize that?
Well, you see a picture and you just see the head.
Okay.
Right?
Oh, all right.
You know,
all right. So
you
when they
just
mean,
see,
yeah, okay, that
you
makes
just see
sense.
the head, right? And then you just think, just normal guy, and then you're like, no, he's like 6'5", right? Which I wasn't as aware of up until like maybe 2 years ago, because my brother's taller. My brother's 6'7", and so it's interesting that John's so friendly, but he comes up to you, he's like, "Hey, Fritz, what's going on?" And it scares the crap out of people.
Yes.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, it scares the crap out of them.
Yeah, he's like a giant.
Yeah, it's like a big giant guy, and he's friendly. It's just, you just sort of, you don't realize that element because of kind of growing up around. But what's interesting is, so like Chris Jenkins, all right?
Okay.
So I don't know if anyone watching this show, Google Chris Jenkins sports science, okay? And
I love sports science,
sports
by the way. What a great
okay.
show.
And you know, he used to play football at the University of Maryland.
Okay.
He played football for the Panthers with the first-round draft pick. For anybody who, and this will resonate with a lot of millennials, he was a 99 in Madden.
Oh, wow. Okay, yeah. They'll get that.
Yeah.
They'll get that.
You know what I mean?
And at his actual position, you didn't have to move him to another one, because there's like a whole secret roster, by the way, of players in Madden that if you switch their positions, they become a 99.
Really?
Yeah. Like, if you take Mike Evans, I can't believe we're talking about Madden on the show. But if you take, like, Mike Evans, I think he's like a 96 or a 97 as a wide receiver.
Yeah.
But if you put him as tight end, he becomes a 99.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
And there's a bunch of tackles in the game that if you move them to guard, they go to 99. And then same thing, like, there's certain guards, if you move them to center, they go to 99. If you have linebackers, you move to defensive end, they go to 99. Like,
is there anything cool, like, if you take, the center, move him to running back? You know what I mean? Are they all like step down positions?
Yeah, that I think they tend to step down. Although there's also a whole secret roster of position players who are good kickers. And the weirdest thing is the two best non-kicker kickers in Madden are Sue. Okay. Dominican Sue, right? And Tim Hightower, who was a running back, used to play for the Redskins. So he's like bounced around the league.
There was a show about NFL players analyzing their Madden scores. Like, I don't know how we got on this, but they had one of the tight ends from I can't remember what team it was, but he was talking about his throwing ability, right? And he was comparing. He's like, "How am I?" He's like, "I'm questioning the integrity of Madden's rankings, right? Because it's like he was like a 15 in throwing, and like a 7 in catching." Right, but let's say
he's a tight end.
Right, I think he was like,
my God.
Right, but let's say you were like a 30 in catching and a 30 in throwing.
Okay,
and we're both tight ends for the NFL, and so they had like a throw off, and he's like, obviously, Madden didn't know I played quarterback in high school,
right?
So how'd you come up with a ranking of a 15 for me? But what's funny is so when I used to play football, we'd be in the games, and I was talking to Jerry about this when he was at West Virginia. So it's kind of a surreal thing to when you go and you play the video game, and I was like third string.
Right.
I was like a 67, 68. I'll
take
it.
So they have a character of you in a video game?
Of you.
So if I go get what I feel like NCAA, one of those, right?
2004, 3 college football, and you'll see like Wheaton, Maryland, 6'4", 270, and I'm like a 65. Or you go Jerry White, and Jerry's like a 70, something like that. And we used to always put each other in.
Right.
And then the replays are so much better. Like when you're in the room with the guys who are playing on the game, and then you're playing each other.
Right.
As yourself.
Yeah.
You could just imagine, like, you know what I mean?
I will just full disclosure. If I had a Madden character, I don't have a Madden character. If I had one, I'd have like a negative rating.
Okay.
I would have like a negative rating. I would be.
I don't think that's possible, but I mean,
I'd have like a 7 overall, but that would only be because I'm really good at bringing water. I'd be like the water boy.
Did you play any sports?
I was a baseball player.
Okay.
I played football. Okay, and the last game I played in football, I was playing an all-star game. I was playing quarterback. I got knocked unconscious for 7 minutes on the field.
High school?
Right before high school. It was a city league. I was 14. I was going into high school. I was playing the last all-star game that summer. Okay. We were playing against a team from Key West. Okay. Of all the things.
Florida?
Yeah, down in Florida. So they had like a travel team from Key West.
Yeah,
they were called the Key West Conchs. I'm not making that up. Conchs.
Like conch fritter?
Like the shell, right? And they have
those are really good.
They're really good. Yeah.
We'll talk about that.
And I went, and I mean it was early in the game. It was maybe sometime in the second quarter. I don't remember a lot of it because I was right. And I just went back with the ball, and before I could do anything with it, guy came from the blind side on the right side. I had my back to him because I was going that way. I think I was going to hand off if I'm not even mistaken. And he got me before I could hand it off. And he hit me helmet to helmet right in the back of the head like that. And I just went down like a ton of bricks. I was out for seven minutes. I was unconscious on the field. So that was the last time I ever played contact football. I never played contact football again.
You know what's interesting?
It's probably for the best.
Yeah. I mean, after that experience, I would say agree.
Well, I mean, this is not a football body. That's a football body. This is not a football.
What's funny is how, with sports, right? Mm-hmm. Everyone always asks, right? Well, what sports did you play? What sports did you play? No one ever asks, like, well, what clubs were you in?
Right.
Right? No one ever asks, like, you know what I mean? Like,
what instruments did you play,
right?
Did
you play?
Yeah.
What instruments? And it's sort of like, at the end of the day, sports is not that relevant, right? Like they're relevant, but they're not. I mean, there's more people who go to church on Sunday than go to watch the football games, right? You know what I mean? Like in on a normal Sunday, the number of
actually go to the stadium.
Number of people who go to the church versus number of people who go to the stadium per se. Now watching is different.
Watching,
I don't know, it might be more or less. Right?
Trust me, the NFL ratings blow away the evangelist. I'm telling you, I'm sure of it, right?
But no one's like, oh, did you see church this Sunday? Like it's just no one says it. Like no one, people go way more to work, but you really talk about work as much, off. But the game in football and sports, it's like front and center of everything. I mean, all through high school and even now. I mean, it's one of those things to where it's amazing how small it is, but then how big it is.
Yeah, and it's an interesting thing. I kind of have a theory on sports, right? In terms of the social dynamic.
I want to make sure we're streaming, right?
Okay, so basically, here's my thing. The appeal of sports is a couple of fold, right? On the one hand, for a guy like me who is not terribly athletic, although for an artist, I'm incredibly athletic, but I'm still an artist. So relatively speaking, that really doesn't mean anything, right? That maybe puts me close to below average as far as athletic ability relative to a regular, person, non-artist person or whatever. But I spent all my time doing art.
Is that like a thing, non-artist person? Is that like a?
I don't know. Anyway, my point is that so sports is fascinating because what it does is it calls back psychologically for us to certain tribal instincts that we have, okay? And the reason that people identify so well with sports and they're so into their sport and their team is because that's their tribe. So subconsciously, they really identify with that team as being part of that team, and they're able to obtain and maintain a tribal identity with that team and feel like they're participating in a contest, okay? And in a lot of cases, a violent contest or a contest that replicates violence, okay, but in a very safe and socially acceptable way. And it allows people to form identities and keep things in common with people that they would never have things in common with and they would never be able to relate to otherwise. You could take two people from completely opposite ends of the spectrum who agree on nothing at all, and if they're fans of the same sports team, they will get along. So I love sports for that reason, and I love watching sports and talking about sports for that reason.
You know what's interesting? So what you said about the survival sort of instinctual thing. And so Morgan being a bodybuilder, you're around a lot of guys and a lot of people who, let's just, for lack of a better term, are naturalists. They're not vegans. They're not vegetarians. They're not people that only do one thing or only do another. But they're just the kind of guys who hunt their own food. You know, some of them with a bow, some of them with a gun.
Hardcore. That's hardcore, man.
You know, they're very much into, you know, bone broth, and very much into vegetables and fresh vegetables, very much into competitive sort of animalistic type things. You know, where they're like, you'll hear them going on a hike for 4 days in the wilderness by themselves. Right? Well, what was interesting, and so one of the guys that I know, he said, look, do a test. He goes, here's what I want you to do. He goes, you wear glasses, right? So I wear glasses. My eyes are perfect. They just don't work, right? You know what I mean?
They're just the wrong shape.
They're just the wrong, right?
A little bit wrong shape.
So he said, do a test. He goes, you know, think about your environment. Do you need glasses? And I'm like, yeah. He goes, well, why? He goes, because you're looking at a screen all day. So you can't see far because you have you're nearsighted. Hindsight, Scott Cooley, captain of a ship, was on the road for many, many years as a boat captain. Well, he's telling me your eyes adjust so that you can see farther. So the guy says to me, look, here's what I want you to do. You have a dog, you walk him at night. Go into the woods at night.
Okay.
Take your glasses off. Okay, no flashlight, no nothing. Okay, middle of the night, pitch black. Right, which is a scary thing.
Was he asking you where you were going to be going in the woods and at what time? I'm just curious. And if you had any valuables with you on your person.
So he said to do this, and I actually did this. And I went with my dog in the middle of the night. All right, pitch black, can't see anything. I have a flashlight, but you can't see anything.
Right.
Your eyes noticeably improve. Right, because number one, you're scared. Right.
Right. So
you're in the middle of the woods. Yeah. You're scared. Number two, that nervous, almost like football anticipation, sort of survival element comes right back. But then number three, when I put my glasses finally back on after, let's say, 15 or 20 minutes, you can see everything, right? And it's one of those things where I think, like, when you take sports, that animalistic, naturalist sort of survival instincts, people need exposure to, right? Like, why would somebody want to box? Why would somebody want to fight?
Right.
Why would somebody want to, you know, I started doing jiu-jitsu again, and it's like, you know, why would somebody want to do that? Why would somebody want to be a part of a culture of let's say, an art culture? Like, why would somebody want to be a part of all those little things? And it comes back to survival, but what's interesting, very few people actually have their own tribe. Like, they're, you know what I mean? Like, you're an artist, so you're different, right? But very few people have their own or actively participate. Like, actively playing the sport.
Right.
Right, they're just watchers. Passionate watchers, but just watchers. And they miss out on all the benefits, because what happens, your bodies adjust. Your body will adjust. It's amazing. Once you start exposing it to it, like when you started to write your book, all of a sudden now you can get it done. Your body adjusts.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? Your body, you start painting, and all of a sudden
it's conditioning. You condition yourself. The human body's ability to condition and recondition and repair itself is absolutely without equal. I mean, it's insane how efficient we're built and how we're made to be able to do that sort of thing. And you see that sports is another great example of that, because what happens, guys get hurt, and you know, my God, that looks horrible. Like, the guy's whole knee went backwards and the leg is all twisted, and he's out for 2 weeks and he's fine. And 2 weeks later, he's running around and he's hitting other people and hurting them. You know, so it really does. It touches on that element of it too. But I think that's why playing sports is important, especially as a kid. Now, there's other reasons for that too. And that has to do with I will say, I'll be the first to admit, that has to do with my absolute hatred, my internal hatred of all things participation trophy. I am so against participation trophies, because it just teaches kids that they can get a reward without a result and without effort, and I don't agree with that.
So I will say with participation trophies, I'm
so against.
Well, put it this way. So it depends on what the participation trophy is.
Okay.
Because
all right, that's fair.
Okay, so
that's fair. I agree with that.
Let's just say this, right?
You got to qualify.
So participation trophy. Let's say, for instance, you're surfing. Okay, surfing is something to where you're either doing it or you're not.
Mm-hmm.
Once you can surf, you can surf.
Yep. It's hard to surf.
If you can't surf, you can't surf.
Can't surf. Just
if you're participating in surfing because you learn that skill, should you get a participation trophy?
No.
Because here's the thing: is well in the most literal sense, like up until that point, you've never known how to surf, right? So this is not a surfing competition, right? This is not like professional surfers versus professional surfers or amateur surfers versus amateur surfers. The way I look at kids and youth sports is, let's say for instance in a situation like with basketball or football, they're so horrible. They have no skills. Any good basketball player would immediately annihilate them just based on like that Seinfeld. They're all at the same skill level, right?
The little kicks.
Yeah, the little kicks, right? They're all the same skill level. Immediately annihilate them. So there really is no winner here because everyone sucks. So let's just be real that, right? So you're really just giving them a participation trophy because you're enforcing the positivity of the skill set, right? So it's kind of like with jiu-jitsu, right? So I'm going to talk about jiu-jitsu a lot, but if I'm wrestling with you, right, and let's say you're new. Right?
I'm at 5 seconds, I'm on the floor crying. Let's all right. New, I got no chance.
Right, let's say you're new. So what is your reward? What is your achievement? Is learning the techniques. It's not in winning, per se, because let's say I might have a different skill set. Now, if you're going to compete in a fight in a real match, completely different.
Right. See, that's just it.
You know what I mean?
If there, I'm looking at it from the perspective of if you're playing a game.
Yeah.
One, you should be keeping score.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Two, there's a winner and a loser.
Yeah.
And a loser doesn't get a prize.
Well,
unless you're in a championship game and the second you finish second, then you get a second place trophy. But the reason I say this is important, and I think that there's like I said, there's a separation on it because I agree. If you're learning to do a skill, like for example, and martial arts is a really good example of this, because you get different belts when you get to a different level. So this is just a mark to let you know where you are in the learning process, right? So that's fine. Of course I have no issue with that. But what bothers me is, if let's say when Oliver is old enough to participate in team sports. So let's say he's playing t-ball when he's 8. Okay. No, we're going to keep score. And we're going to have a winner and we're going to have a loser. And the reason why is because this is the opportunity to teach kids the value of hard work and of effort, okay, and of the fact that they don't always win. See, that's the biggest problem for me is that you don't always win. And you have to learn how to accept defeat and then use it to motivate yourself to improve. That's what champions do. And when we talk to folks who are very successful, they all tell us that same thing. They all have that same mantra, which is, I am terrified of failure, right? I don't want to fail. And I'm so afraid of failing or not winning that I will work harder than any other person to ensure that at least at the end of the day, if someone does better than I do, it's not because they outworked me. It's something else. They're just better or whatever. But I'm going to work as hard as I can, right, to be successful. So that teaches kids, for me, like, hey, listen, son, I'm sorry. Look, yeah, you didn't win this one. You finished second. Nothing wrong with finishing second because guess what? About half the time, any time you play or compete, someone has to lose.
Yeah.
Someone has to win and someone has to lose. It's okay to lose. Now, don't get used to it. Don't enjoy it. But you don't beat yourself up over it. You just use it as a motivation to try and improve and get better. Right?
Yeah, and what's interesting is,
and then you earn that trophy.
There's such a balance, right? So there's such a because there's like both are true, okay? Because there's the guys who you play with who say, I have one speed, and it's full speed. And Fritz, get out of the way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right?
I'll just stand over there and watch.
Those guys generally aren't as good as just generally. Now, that's not 100% the case. but generally as the guys who say, hey, look, here's what I need to work on.
Mm-hmm.
Here's where you need to work on. Let's work on this together. And then, you'll get better, I'll get better. It's competitiveness, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I feel like sometimes on the kids' youth sports, at the end of the day, when I got out of college, I coached some Pee Wee football. And my first conversation to the parents was, look, none of your kids are going to the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
None of your kids are playing in college, right? And if they are, there's nothing you can do, because it will be so obvious that they will be bigger, faster, and stronger than anybody they go to school with, right?
Yep.
In their whole school, that the newspaper will know about it before you do, right? It's completely obvious. Like, you can just sort of like, it's like Shaquille O'Neal walking in the room. You're like, well, that's going to work. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The ratio is obvious.
And so once you know that, and at that level, I'm at 100%. When you get into high school, when you get into college, I'm at 100%. And maybe in middle school, I'm 100% before that, because of it gets real. But when the kids are 5 and 8, I mean, there's some of the kids, they're going through growth spurts. They can barely even jog. They're trying to figure out how to dribble the ball. Like, I look at it as, how can I build up the confidence in these kids so that when the guy who's a little awkward gets to high school, he has enough confidence to go and try to join the team. The guy that was a stud is humble enough to know teamwork, because nobody was, there's a balance, and it's not either or. I think there's a little bit of both. Because even amongst the let's say, when you get into the real high stakes of let's say fighting or in football, there's a camaraderie that they don't really, they care who won, and they obviously want to win, but they really respect the other person, that kids don't understand, because they don't have the skill yet. They don't appreciate the art of how Mayweather beat McGregor. They just think Mayweather beat McGregor. They don't want to appreciate how Tom Brady's won 6 Super Bowls. They just think Tom Brady's the best. This guy's a loser. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was saying Tom Brady's only won 5 Super Bowls.
Okay, 5 Super Bowls.
What I would say is,
there's a point. You know
this is why obviously you're a better coach than me. For sports. Because which it's a compliment. By the way, it's a compliment.
Yeah.
Okay. This is a great example. Well, this is a great example of leadership, right? So this is a good example of it. This is why you're good at what you do. This is why you're great at what you do. You have that coaching mentality, which is obviously
you think about, like, so to your point about keeping score, winning, losing. Some people don't really know and understand that they have an opportunity to win. Right, like, if that makes any sense,
it does.
Right? Like, how many things have you won in your life to where it's like, I got first place, right? I mean, how many people? Most people have never really been like state champion.
Well, right? No, I mean, but there's, no, I get what you're saying. I mean, there's a, I mean, I've never been a state champion in anything, to be fair. I've won first place in a bunch of stuff, but I've never been a state champion. So.
Well, then, and what happens is you realize
there's no state championship.
Well,
for
the
painting.
difference between the guys who go on and do that and the guys who don't, a lot of it is just that they think they can, and somewhere along the line, somebody sort of pushed them enough to get over that hump to where they actually started doing well, a little bit. And I think what happens in some of the other, like, all-for-nothing sports,
right,
is like, my brother, good example. He was underdeveloped at a younger age, but he was really big, so he was uncoordinated. Well, what is the goal with him? Keep him confident. Because by the time he got out of high school, he was like 6'7", 330 pounds, and would have been a first-round draft pick, right? So the goal is, as he develops, keep him confident. Make sure he knows. Not win or lose,
right?
Because there's more to it. For the youth sports. Now, once you get older,
well, and also because he's not
him with a smile.
They're not going to continue to compete if they're not confident.
Correct.
It's not going to be fun. There's
Correct.
Heck with this, to give it up.
Correct. So sorry, but it's a little.
Oh no, that's cool. No, I was just complimenting. I mean, like, you know, Oliver goes into youth sports. Maybe you should go back into sports, sports coaching.
I will. I'll
you know, because I'll be the one over there. You know, no, Oliver, no orange slices. They're for winners. You know, no. And then Coach Brian will come over. Oh, that's okay. You know.
Well, because the thing is until that point, right? So, what defines a winner, right? In context, though, because it's not a mature adult, right? So it's in context. And then when you think about...
You're convincing me to like participation trophies. This is
well, because the thing is when you think about like the message you're sending to Oliver of like you didn't win, right? But the reality is this: he's not prepared to win, right? Because if he was prepared to win, he would have won. The youth sports, there's no difference in the athletes; it's the coaches. Right, so no, there's no difference in the athletes on the youth at the 6 to 12-year-old level, unless you're playing like really selective, elite sort of sports. The players are all the same because they don't know anything, right? Like they're not running the opposite.
I'll just say this: he will have the advantage of great height.
Okay, well, but I'm saying it's like if Oliver played football. They're not coming into the huddle and being like pro right 67 option halfback on one ready break then checking the play right. So they're going to run right and
23 dive on two
23 dive on two run right and he's thinking I have to block this guy
actually 20 that'd be 24
right
24
I have to block this guy
right
and he's not really sure and there's 3 other kids who think they have to block a guy as well and then they all run out for each other. And they're even scared. They don't even know how to get in the stance.
It's funny, and you make a good point. And I should have, because I remember, I guess I was probably about 10 or 11, and I remember this very, very well.
Yeah.
When I sort of had a mental breakthrough, right, where the coach said to me, when you're going to throw a pass to the receiver, look at the opposite side of the field before you decide which guy to throw. Like, if you know you're going to throw it to the guy on the right. Because, again, you're 10 or 11, you're throwing to one guy. You don't have a route tree. You don't have a progressions. Yeah. You're just going to throw it to that guy, right? So the coach would say, here's what you have to do. You have to look to the left and like you're going to throw it that way and then turn to the right and then throw the ball to that guy. And it finally, and then, it's like, okay. And then it finally, I remember clearly when that clicked over in my mind, I'm doing that so that the safety will go to the left, and then I won't have to throw over him to get the ball to the receiver. All he's got to do is beat the corner. He doesn't have to. I don't have to worry about hitting, beating the safety with the throw. I remember I was probably about 11 when that kicked into my mind, and I'd been playing youth quarterback for a couple of years.
Yeah, so you take that.
It's a good point. It's a good point you make.
You take that, and then you run that all the way down to, hey, I know what call to play, play to call, based on the fact that every time I look left, the safety goes left. And every time that we run this formation, the linebacker goes right. So I think there's a slot in the middle, and you recognize that on the field. And so you go, Tweedledee, Tweedledum to your receiver, and then he changes the play, and then you're playing. Right. And then until then, it's one of those things to where it's like, from a coaching's perspective, I'm thinking and looking at you and saying, okay, there's a participation trophy for one, he got the ball, right? Because the center used, he snapped the ball and Fritz took it. He at least made an attempt to look left, right? That's a win there. He got the ball out, which is a win there. I mean, you're 11, right? Yeah. Up until this point, you're going home and watching cartoons, right? And then the guy caught it, right? That's a win.
Like maybe 40% of the time.
But that's a win. No, now you may not have won the game, but at least you win because let's say up until a year ago before then, I remember when I distinctly. So the first year I played football. It was the first year I played high school. The first year I played football was in high school.
Oh wow, okay.
And so I remember when I got there, and the coach was like, "Well, what position do you play? And what this and what that?" And I was like, "I have no idea." Right, like I just don't want to be. And I remember distinctly writing down like offense. I kind of knew this already, but I distinctly remember writing offense is when you have the ball.
Right.
Defense is when you don't. Right. You know what I mean? Okay. Defense, you're supposed to get the ball away. Offense, you're supposed to, like, the basics. And that's in high school. So when you back that up to, like, kids that are 10,
right,
they're thinking, gosh, my number is not the cool number. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they're scared to death. All of them are scared to death.
Why couldn't I wear 0?
You know what I mean?
Why was I not allowed? Sorry.
Well, I'm just saying, all of them are scared to death. A lot of them are put in there by their parents, right? Saying they have to do something.
Yes, that's unfortunate.
And they're scared to death about getting hurt, about looking like an idiot, about getting embarrassed in front of their friends, about, you know, just, I mean, everything you can quite imagine. They're tired. They don't know how to put on the uniform. So they get a participation trophy.
I cannot believe.
So they get a participation trophy. I mean, there's some, at the end of the year. At the end of the year. Okay. Not at the end of the game. Okay. Not at the end of the game. So you showed up to practice.
Okay.
You did what you're supposed to do. So, you know, you're not LeBron, but we don't care. You know what I mean?
I'm amazed.
Yeah.
I really am, because in a half an hour you convinced me to actually be okay with participation.
Hey, well, you know, we're
that is not so. I'm serious.
Yeah.
That's not something that a half an hour ago I would have been like, yeah, I would just, you heard me, participation, that's stupid. But now it's like, well, you know, now I've heard this from a perspective I didn't have, right? Because I'm only looking at it from not only a parental perspective, but from my perspective as an individual. Like I said, knowing, okay, when I talk to all these successful people, this is how they tell me how to be successful. They all have this same sort of mentality. And I'm thinking, well, if you got, you know, if you want to be driven and you want to succeed, you want to do this, you throw the participation trophy away and you do it this way, right? But here's the thing, and this is the lesson for me, and this is the lesson we'll share with the audience. I was only looking at this from one angle, right? I'm only viewing it from my own perspective. I'm not viewing it from the perspective of the coach or the athlete who has higher level experience and how that youth experience may have benefited that, right? Okay, that later on. And now, so this is the value of having these kind of conversations, talking through things with folks, and really understanding another point of view. Because now, my mind is pretty much changed. You know, I'm looking at this very differently, and there's a lot more to consider. Okay, that, you know, maybe these aren't so bad.
Well, and what's interesting, so not to cut you off, but this is a good pivot point on this is, so when you're coming up through the like high school sports and then you're going off to college, and then there's sort of like a reshuffling of then who's going to go on the NFL and play professional sports, right, or the NBA and play professional sports. During that, there's a lot of like elitism, you know, I was a 3-star prospect. This guy was a 4-star prospect. Right. This guy was a 5-star prospect. You know, you sit in the back, you sit in the front, and you sit in the trunk, right? You know, oh well, what round are you going to be drafted in was a big deal. You know what I mean? Who's recruiting you or prospecting you? What offers have you got? Like, I know I had a buddy who got offered like 115 Division I scholarships, and he had all the names in his room with little check marks and stuff like that, right? Like, it was like it's kind of douchey elitism, right? Yeah. When they grow up, that elitism sort of moves away. And the reason is because in sports, so unlike business and sports are close, but they're a little different. Because in business, you don't get direct feedback, right? There's no like embarrassing moment for most people on a daily basis that I tried the best I could and I failed. It's not like that. It's pretty safe, where you have some, you know, you may have not gotten a 100% yes or 100% no, but most of the time it's not embarrassing. It's embarrassing to get knocked out.
Oh, hell yeah, I can tell you that from experience.
You know what I mean? Like, it's embarrassing. Like, when you try the best you can to block somebody and he throws you on your ass and sacks the quarterback in front of everybody. It's very humbling.
Or right? Let's say if you're like a 17-time Pro Bowl quarterback who totally biffs an easy pass.
Correct.
In the Super Bowl, I'm looking at you, Tom Brady.
Exactly. It's very embarrassing. That was a bad play.
Look, I'm sorry. I have to mention it.
That was a bad play.
I have to mention it.
That was because so like
that is the only thing in his life that did not go better than anyone would ever expect.
Well, you think about that play,
so we're going to hang on to that
sort of thing.
I'm bitter. I'm going to hang on.
You know, these kids who are going out there are exposing themselves, and they're doing the best they can in a real direct feedback way. There's no debate.
Right, because they're going to hear it immediately. You miss the tackle. The coach is telling you immediately.
When you hit somebody, when you're playing, I played center, right? And so when I played center, when I got to Tennessee, okay, I should have got a freaking award for the first year of practice, and the reason is because we had Albert Hainsworth,
a participation trophy,
and John Henderson as the 2 defensive linemen.
Wow.
Okay. And I'm freshman, no nothing.
Did Hainsworth ever step on you? Did he ever do anything?
No, he's actually a really nice guy.
All right.
But you're talking like, I remember the first practice, I used to think to myself, I called my dad, I was like, I'm not going to be able to make it. I'm like, you can forget it. Like, these guys are so good. And you try every day in practice, just knocking yourself. And you get your ass kicked every day. And you keep showing up, and then you get better and stuff like that. And the thing is that's when hindsight, you look at the little kids and you realize they're going through the same thing, just at a lower sort of level. They're just learning the sport.
Right.
They're learning the rules.
And they don't have the life skills developed.
And they don't have the life
right?
skills, and they don't have the competitive skills. And a lot of them don't have any, I'll be honest with you, a lot of them, 80% of kids don't have any business playing sports because they will never be good at it. Right? That athleticism is, well, I mean, meaning when you get to the elite level, right? That athleticism, somebody like a Chris Jenkins or an Albert Hainsworth is a different kind of person. His fingers are this thick.
Yeah.
Right? You know what I mean? Like, even against me. Like, some of these guys, 6'7", 370 pounds. And can run like the wind. And can do a backflip. Kind of thing. And can dunk from the foul line. Was All-American in 4 sports. You know what I mean?
I do.
It's not even close. So that's where you get the participation trophies, right?
You've convinced me. You've convinced me they're not entirely bad. I don't know. I see now that, like I said, that there's some value to it. I agree with that. Now you changed my mind. But again, reinforces the importance of trying to see things from the other angle, from the other perspective, because you'll surprise yourself with what you can learn, right? And and it's like sports where, just like you say, you got to practice every day and you slowly improve. It's the same kind of thing, particularly for business. The more you try to look at things from the other perspective, and in this case, business sense, from the client perspective, the better equipped you're going to be to handle what they need.
Correct.
Right? And the more you'll develop those skills, so you'll have the anticipation to head those problems off before they happen, because you're already thinking, or you're able to put yourself in that mindset that they've got and then apply that, right, to your own actions. So there's how we sort of bring this thing full circle back to where we are talking about the industry and everything else.
So we haven't talked anything about the industry, so
not much,
at all.
But,
so we're starting to head into the spring.
Yeah,
so we're heading into the spring. Things are looking there,
and we have some exciting, because we're relocating the office.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so that's very exciting.
Yeah, it's interesting in the office when you're moving like that. It's kind of eerie because everything's white, everything's painted, everything kind of is just shoveled.
Except this wall.
Except for this wall.
This
is the only.
This is it.
This is like that movie where you walk in and everything's white except for this one area. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like the office looks like the TV room in Willy Wonka.
Yeah.
Right? Like how it's all sterile and everything, right? Except for
this
right
room.
here. Yeah.
This orange. Yeah.
This is like the wall with like the Snosberry wallpaper.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So we're excited. We're excited about moving. We're excited about the next episode. And I think this was good. We got the new setup. We're live again.
Yes.
And we're going to be doing these more. It's exciting.
Yeah, and we'll get back into. We're going to get we'll get some more guests coming back on. We're going to check in. I'm going to reach out to Sean. We're going to get him back in.
Well, we got the software reset, which.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, it's a big thing. But I want to talk to him, see how his trip is going.
Get Hammond back in.
Yeah, we'll check in with him. We'll check in with Jared again from Data Master. So we'll have, and we've got some other folks that want to come on the show. So now that we've got everything kind of worked out this way, we'll bring them back in. We could give them participation trophies.
Participation. Hey,
if
we
they want.
we
actually
actually
do have some.
Hey, you know what, Fritz? We're gonna do that.
It's fantastic.
We're gonna mail our guests. Can you hand me a participation trophy, Kelly?
This is fantastic.
Just throw me.
That's one. Oh!
Come on.
See, that's why he had like a 7 catching in Madden,
we
because
have
he couldn't get that.
participation trophies
That's fantastic.
that we are going to now send out to our guests for participating in the episode.
I have humbly learned a lesson today.
Well, thank you. All right, my friend, let's take us out.
All right, so we're gonna wrap this one up. But hey, make sure if you're watching or you have watched, hit that subscribe button, please. That way you don't miss our updates, which will be a bit more regular from now on and going forward. So hit that subscribe button. Check us out on the website, coestervms.com. If you've got any questions about the appraisal industry, the mortgage industry, or there's anything else that we can help you with, get in touch with us. Let us know. And